This is Smokin' Dave, and you're listening to a man who drinks so much coffee, he is starting to resemble Juan Valdez. It's the Kevin Friedman Show.
Hey now, it's Friday, July 27th, and another SportsGossip.com podcast is on the air. I'm your host, Kevin Friedman, along with my announcer, Smokin' Dave, and together we will bring you 10 of the hottest stories off the SportsGossip.com website. Dave, start us off with story number 1.
Bill Belichick refuses to address Malcolm Butler's Super Bowl benching.
So Belichick met with the media this week for the first time since their loss to the Eagles in the Super Bowl last season, and congratulations to Dan Shaughnessy of the Boston Globe, because he had the balls to ask the question that everyone wants to know the answer to, which is why was Malcolm Butler benched in the Super Bowl? Now, of course, in typical Belichick style, he didn't answer, and when Shaughnessy tried to follow up and get him to answer, he basically went with the generic answer of, I gotta focus on the 2018 season. Now again, you gotta commend Shaughnessy for at least trying to get an answer out of him. Shaughnessy and the Globe's Bob Ryan are easily two of the best sports writers in Boston, and this is a perfect example of why. But if you ask me, he should have kept pressing him. And the New England media should not give up on this. They should make him answer this question. And the NFL is an entertainment league. The fans pay Bill Belichick's salary. And Belichick benched one of their best defensive players for seemingly no reason in the most important game of the year. You could argue that benching cost them a Super Bowl win, so the fans have the right to know why he did it. And I know Belichick is famous for not saying anything at his press conferences, and normally I think that's a good move. But when you bench one of your best players in the most important game of the year, and people think it costs you the game, you should be obligated to discuss why you did that. If the New England media had any balls, they would boycott New England's media sessions and not even show up until he answers this question. I mean, if I'm a Patriots fan, I want to know the answer. And I would seriously consider not buying any merchandise or going to any games or supporting this team financially in any way until I get one. So Shaughnessy, I commend you for trying to get the answer out of him at least. And I hope you keep asking this question until we get an answer, because fans deserve it. Now, Dave, what's next?
Sporting goods store Modell's leaks new Lakers uniforms.
Well, whoever runs the Twitter account for Modell's probably lost their job yesterday, because they tweeted out a picture of the new Lakers uniforms and then quickly deleted it because the Lakers haven't unveiled these uniforms to the public yet. You can go to sportsgossip.com to take a look at the new uniforms. If you ask me, they don't look much different than the old ones. Last year's uniforms had white numbers, and these uniforms have purple numbers with white outline. That's the only difference. They're saying the new look is similar to the 80s Showtime Lakers, but once again, the Lakers uniforms have pretty much been the same for 50 years. I see we have a caller on the line who wants to discuss this. He's back. It's LeAngelo Ball's #1 fan. You're on the air.
Hey, Kevin, guess what? I just ordered my brand new LA Lakers LeAngelo Ball jersey, baby!
Guy, why would you order his jersey? He's not even on the team. He didn't even make the Summer League team.
Oh, you just wait and see, Kevin Friedman. When LeAngelo's playing for the Lakers in the middle of the season and getting 20 points a game, you're gonna be eating your words. LeAngelo Ball, y'all. He's gonna stand tall, y'all. He's the best player in the NBA, y'all. He's LeAngelo Ball, y'all. Oh, yeah.
Well, this guy might be delusional. He is a dedicated fan, and you gotta give it to him. He wrote a hell of a song. LeAngelo Ball's biggest fan. Thanks for the call. Dave, what's next?
Jon Gruden won't take Raiders money if he fails.
Gruden signed a 10-year, $100 million contract to coach the Raiders in January, and he told the USA Today's Jarrett Bell that if he isn't successful, he will not take the Raiders' money. Now, why Gruden, or anyone for that matter, would make a statement like this is pretty ridiculous. I mean, I don't care who you are or how much money you have. If you have a signed contract for $100 million and you're volunteering not to get paid unless you succeed, you're a moron. And while the Raiders are a good team and will probably have a good season, as long as Derek Carr stays healthy, right now they're missing their best defensive player in Khalil Mack. who's holding out of training camp, wants a new contract, and hasn't even spoken to Gruden once since Gruden was hired in January. So if I were Jon Gruden, I'd be worrying about Khalil Mack and not wasting my time making moronic statements to the press. And if he does end up failing and he gives the money back to Raiders owner Mark Davis, then Davis should use all 100 million of it to get a new haircut. I mean, every time I see this guy on TV and see his hairdo, I feel like he's fucking with me. Who volunteers to look like that? The guy's probably worth $1 billion, and he has the most ridiculous haircut I've ever seen. Now, Dave, what's next?
Conor McGregor takes plea deal in assault case.
UFC star Conor McGregor pleaded guilty to a single violation of disorderly conduct in Brooklyn Criminal Court Thursday for his involvement in the incident on April 5th at the Barclays Center where he threw a dolly at a bus. The agreement means no jail time and will not affect his travel visa, plus he will not have a criminal record. Now hopefully the resolution of this case means he can get on with his fighting, because everyone's waiting for him to fight current champion Khabib Nurmagomedov, who's undefeated and was on the bus that McGregor attacked. I mean, not only is this a great fight because both fighters are talented, it's going to be that much better because these guys truly hate each other. Now you got to imagine Dana White's trying to do everything he can to get this fight going ASAP. McGregor hasn't fought in the UFC since November 2016, and he hasn't fought period since the Mayweather fight, which was back in August. So let's hope there's a date set for this fight soon, because it's definitely the fight every fan wants to see. Before we go to our next story, Dave's telling me Raiders owner Mark Davis's barber is on the phone. All right, put him on. Raider owner Mark Davis's barber, you're on the air.
Damn it, Friedman, I've been cutting Mark Davis's hair for 25 years. And he just heard what you said, and he called and fired me. What are you doing to me?
What am I doing to you? What were you doing to him for the past 25 years? He's got the worst haircut I've ever seen.
You know what, Friedman? If I wasn't blind, I would come over to your studio and kick your ass. And what do you know about haircuts anyways? You're bald.
Hey, that's a low blow. And I'd rather have no hair than Mark Davis's haircut. Now get off my phone line. Dave, what's next?
Dez Bryant heading to the Cleveland Browns?
Cleveland general manager John Dorsey told reporters that team executives have discussed potentially signing Bryant for the 2018 season. Now, the Browns already traded for Jarvis Landry in the offseason, and they have Josh Gordon on the roster, but after that they are pretty weak, so they could use a Dez Bryant. And if all three of those guys can play to their potential, then whether it's Tyrod Taylor or the rookie Baker Mayfield, they're going to have plenty of weapons to throw to. Now, if I'm Dez Bryant, I'm not signing with Cleveland. Insiders say it is Bryant who is delaying his signing, probably because he doesn't want to go to training camp. But if he's going to play for a new team, he's got to learn the playbook. So if I were him, I would sign and get into camp ASAP. Although I would sign with a team with a better quarterback. I talked about it on my last show. The Colts could definitely use him. I think the Patriots could use him, along with the Saints. And then selfishly, I wish the Bears would sign him, because I still think he's a great player. He's only 29 years old. You're going to get him on the cheap, and while he might have his problems off the field, there's no questioning he's a competitor on the field, and if healthy, will produce great numbers. So we'll just have to wait and see where Dez ends up signing, whether it's Cleveland or wherever. If Dez can stay healthy, get into camp, and learn the playbook, they're going to get a quality player on the cheap. And that's 5 stories down. We got 5 to go, but we got to take a break, so we'll be back right after this.
Hi there, this is Robert Gutenberger. You may know me as the guy who once got in a car accident with Dikembe Mutombo, or you may know me as the gas man. If you have terrible gas, and you want someone to follow you around all day and take the blame for it, then I want to be your gas man. You can contact me at GutenbergerGasman@AOL.com, and I'll be taking the blame for your bad gas in no time.
And we're back. Dave, give us that next story.
Jamel Winston trying to regain trust of fans.
The Bucs quarterback met with the media on Thursday and acknowledged that he has, quote, hard work to do to regain the trust of my fans. In case you're not aware, Winston was suspended for 3 games after an NFL investigation found he inappropriately touched a female Uber driver back in March 2016 in Scottsdale, Arizona. You could read more quotes from Winston and more about this at sportsgossip.com. And while in a normal society, anyone who gropes a female Uber driver should never be forgiven, all it's going to take for Bucs fans to forgive him is for him to play well and the Bucs win, which is not going to be easy because they play in a tough NFC South where they finished 5-11 last year. And while NFL experts are saying the Bucs have one of the best draft classes in the league, with Ryan Fitzpatrick starting your first 3 games, I wouldn't get your hopes up if you were expecting to see Tampa Bay in the playoffs next year. Dave, what's next?
The Chicago Cubs trade for Cole Hamels.
Yes, the former World Series MVP is now a member of the Chicago Cubs. The 34-year-old has struggled this season for the Rangers. In fact, since June 25th, Hamels has a 10.23 ERA, which is last in baseball, and he's the only qualified pitcher in the major leagues this season with an ERA above 6 at home and an ERA below 3 on the road. So he no longer has to pitch in Texas. And back in 2015, he no-hit the Cubs at Wrigley Field. Unfortunately, I was there, so he obviously likes pitching at Wrigley. And the Cubs desperately needed to add a starting pitcher because Tyler Chatwood has an ERA close to 5 in 18 starts this season and has 37 more walks than any other NL starter. So he needed to get out of the rotation. If you ask me, I think this is a great move by Theo. And even if Hamels continues to struggle, he can't be any worse than Tyler Chatwood. Now, Dave, what's next?
Michael Irvin and Eric Davis named in lawsuit against the NFL Network.
The former NFL players have been accused of sexual harassment by a former NFL Network makeup artist. Now, Davis is no longer with the network and was fired by ESPN after the allegations initially came to light, but Irvin, as of now, is still employed by the NFL Network. Now, obviously, these guys are innocent until proven guilty, but either way, it's pretty disappointing, especially with Michael Irvin, because along with Deion Sanders, he was one of the more entertaining personalities on the network. Now, I was watching the morning show on the NFL Network a few days ago, and Steve Smith was on there, and not only is he one of the toughest receivers in NFL history, he was very entertaining on the show. So if Michael Irvin does end up getting fired, at least they have a good replacement. I see we have a caller on the line who wants to discuss this. It's attorney at law, Richard P. Wang.
Hey, Kevin, this is Richard P. Wang, attorney at law and attorney to the stars.
Yeah, I just introduced you 2 seconds ago. Thanks for repeating yourself. Why don't you just tell us what you want?
Well, Kevin, I just wanted to let Michael Irvin know that if he needs my services, I'm just a phone call away.
First off, why would he want your services? Everyone you represent ends up in jail. And second, why would you want to represent someone accused of sexual harassment?
Why do you think? Richard P. Wang loves the moolah.
Alright, that's enough of Richard P. Wang. What a scumbag. Dave, what's next?
Jordan Poyer cheated on Rachel Bush.
Well, it appears Buffalo Bills safety Jordan Poyer and his Instagram model wife Rachel Bush, who is a close personal friend of the website, have called it quits. They have unfollowed each other on social media, and word on the internet streets is that Poyer cheated on Bush, possibly while he was drunk. In addition to unfollowing him on social media, she dropped his last name, which is another big red flag that it's over. You can go to sportsgossip.com to read all about this and read some Instagram posts and tweets. And while I do feel bad for Rachel, I'm sure she'll get over it quick because she is one of the most gorgeous women around.
That Poyer is a real jerk. Nobody does that to our favorite girl. In fact, Poyer, I'm throwing out the challenge right now. You and me, a mud wrestling ring, both naked. Let's get it on.
There you go, Poyer. Challenge issued. Nobody messes with our girl Rachel Bush. Now, Dave, give us that final story.
This Tiger Woods One Piece will haunt your dreams.
Phew, this is a disturbing story. Some clothing brand named Beloved, who if you ask me should be put out of business ASAP, created a one-piece bathing suit with a giant picture of Tiger Woods on it. And let me just apologize up front if you're watching a video of this podcast, because you're probably staring at a picture of some fat guy wearing it. And if you're not, you can go to sportsgossip.com to see the video if you want to torture your eyes. Again, this is one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen, and this company should be ashamed of themselves for putting out this bathing suit. The guy wearing it should be thrown in jail, and every single one that was made should be burned. Dave, why are you staring at me like that?
'Cause right before you did this story, I just ordered one.
Well, I'm sure it'll look great on you. Eeh. And that'll do it for another SportsGossip.com podcast. I want to thank my announcers, Smokin' Dave. Thanks to everybody who called in. And of course, thank you for listening. As always, for these stories and much, much more, you can go to SportsGossip.com. Our next podcast is Tuesday. And until then, we'll see you next time.